Paraguay was badly burned by banking crisis in the past. And as for most markets, finding the right balance between credit growth and stability is essential. The chairman of Sudameris Bank, Conor McEnroy, is keen to keep the system as well capitalized and prudently funded as possible. Mr. McEnroy's investment firm, Abbeyfield, bought Sudameris Bank in 2004 as the country was recovering from a severe banking crisis. Much has changed since, thanks also to tighter oversight and banking reforms. Bringing the sector up to speed with regulatory best practice was needed, but, Mr. McEnroy says, modernization efforts should not lead to the introduction of investment banking activities in the straightforward, locally based services of Paraguay's lenders.
When I came in 2004, Paraguay had had a very deep systematic failure in 97 and 98, and then it had another, perhaps in some ways even deeper, systemic failure because of the Velux group, and they brought down a number of other banks with them. So you had Northern Rock type runs all over the place, every bank. And very serious amounts, very large portions of the deposits leaving, 40%, 50% of deposits leaving. That's as big a crisis as you can get. 2003 started a process of deep reform, structural reform in public administration, and that extended to the central bank and to the regulators. We have a regulator for banks and other deposit takers, and we have a regulator for insurance. We don't yet have a regulator for asset managers or pension funds, but that will come. The rules that were here in 2004 were pretty lax. They have methodically and meticulously been tightened up or redrafted, such that today the system that we have is a very self-contained system. We take relatively little funding from abroad, really very little. Most of the funding of the financial system is domestic funding, and that's placed domestically. We don't lend abroad. We don't have trading desks, derivative desks, funky investment desks, no investment banking. We don't do it, and in my book, it would not be welcome. I believe we need Glass-Steagall back, and personally I'm lobbying to have Glass-Steagall implemented in Paraguay, because I think that I feel strongly that investment banks ruin commercial banks and should not be allowed to tap public money.
So you really want Paraguay's banking sector to remain as conservative as it is now. And on one hand also it is a market that perhaps not many know too well outside of the region. But you still managed to attract foreign investors by issuing cocoa bonds.
Well, in the case of the cocoa bonds, we issued them because we're in Paraguay. Our equity is denominated in Guaranese. But in this country, we are an export economy. You know, we have 6.5 million people. We have 15 million cows. And we export 9 million tons of soybeans every year. We are expecting the cattle population to go up to 20 million, and we are expecting the soybean production to go up to 17, 18 million tons a year. You are an open economy, you are plugged in, and many of your clients are trading in dollars. You know, if my commodity is selling and is priced in dollars, then I'm in a dollar business. Hence, land here changes hands in dollars. So about half the balance sheet of the financial system is in dollars. In our case, a little bit more because we're perceived, we're the only bank with Anglo-Saxons, so we're perceived a little bit differently. So our balance sheet would be about 55% in dollars. So I felt strongly that whilst the traditional treasurer view of matched currencies is assets equal liabilities, but that's good for liquidity, but that's not good for solvency. You have to have dollars in your equity to support your dollar assets. A bank must have equity to be a bank. And so one of the ways to do that was to issue a cocoa bond, which is a dollar-denominated bond, which in one foul swoop allows me to have a big chunk of my capital, my equity, in dollars. And we placed that in Europe in 2 tranches. We pre-placed it, so it was a bought deal, as they say. And yeah, we had no problem. Our bank, indeed the system, it's solid, plain vanilla banking activity. It's dare I say, we fulfill the role that a commercial bank should fulfill in society. We are a safe place to keep money, and we don't lend it out to adventurers building a building in Beijing or in Moscow.
So I guess since your arrival, you witnessed around 30%, is that correct, of
Yeah,
credit growth?
pretty
will
much.
this continue, and what will drive the sector in the future?
So we have an interesting shift now in Paraguay, because when I came, it was about cattle and soybeans. And if somebody came along, they wanted to put up a factory, well, that was a novelty. Well, we have worked hard and put many things in order in the house during that time. And now we are opening factories at a hell of a clip. Paraguay has set itself up to be an alternative venue to manufacturing to China for this region. So we are on a program where we are deliberately substituting Chinese manufacturing for Brazil, for Argentina, by agreement with these countries. And we're being very successful. For example, on car components, the only company that is not here, it's easier to say it that way, the only company that is not here yet is Delphi. Everybody else is here. So we've had 90 factories open in the last 36 months. And we have a queue of 60 factories in the process, looking and so on, to the point where we have even developed a product program for foreigners coming in to open factories.
Very well. Conor, thank you.
Very good.